Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul, and we are
SP Film Viewers.
Hey Tiger.
I wanted to do like a rawr noise, but I knew it wasn't going to be great.
Rawr. That's what tigers do, yeah. I don't know really how to start a preamble on this, other than the fact that we are going to be watching Life of Pi.
So is the tiger Pi, or is the main lead Pi? I'm guessing that's his name.
It's the lead.
Okay.
No, the tiger's life.
That'd be more interesting.
From the perspective, yeah.
So obviously this is a film that neither one of us have seen.
Yeah.
Which I know it's really popular.
Yeah, it's something I've been wanting to check out for quite some time, even when it came out in, 2012?
The only thing I'm wondering is if the tiger, it's with CGI.
At the time is gonna be good enough, yeah. There is that, I suppose.
I think it's also how unrealistic does it look. I know it's got really good reviews, and it was one of those things when it came out, it was like
a spectacle. And for that, it's kind of like high praise on that, really.
Just makes me wonder, when you go into these films where they are highly praised, then am I going to get let down?
Maybe there is a bit of worry on that, to be fair, with this again, like certain films you think, oh, I haven't seen them for a while, and it's like you're excited to see them, and then you just feel like you're going to be let down a little bit. So I'm not entirely sure, like what to expect other than like a visual treat, I suppose, for everything. So colourful and vibrant. So
nice landscapes.
So the little synopsis that reads on Google, it says, Pi Patel finds a way to survive in a lifeboat that is adrift in the middle of nowhere. His fight against the odds is heightened by the company of a hyena and a male Bengal tiger.
Why is the hyena not in the picture?
Yeah, why is he not on the poster, you mean?
Yeah. Why is it all about the tiger? If he's accompanied by a hyena.
I love the fact it says a male as well. You have to be specific on the gender.
Well, what sex is the hyena?
It doesn't say that either.
Poor hyena. But why is the hyena first then? Wouldn't it be male tiger and hyena? You'd have thought.
Maybe he's just a passing character. I don't know.
Strange.
But I
didn't know there was hyenas in this. Is it trying to be Lion King? What with tigers?
Well, tigers more of Indian origin, like in Jungle Book and stuff. The hyena is more African, so
that's why you've got lions in Lion King, Africa. Yeah. It makes sense.
So I'm not sure, but
I'm looking forward to seeing it though.
Yeah, we'll find out because I don't even know like how it's even going to start, kind of thing. Like, how is it going to get him in the boat? Is it like a almost like dream like or?
Or it just already starts with him being there.
Based off a book, so it's one of the things like, well, maybe we should read the book first, but he's got time for that.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is true.
Okay, well, we will be back with our thoughts very soon.
You cannot follow 3 different religions at the same time, Piscine.
Why not?
Because believing in everything at the same time is the same as not believing in anything at all.
He's young, Santosh. He's still finding his way.
And how can he find his way if he does not choose a path? Listen, instead of leaping from one religion to the next, why not start with reason? In a few hundred years, science has taken us farther in understanding the universe than the religion has in 10,000.
And we are back from watching Life of Pi. Was that a journey and a half, or?
Yeah. And don't you want a tiger? Like a pet tiger?
Yeah, they are majestic.
They're beautiful. I was looking at Arthur. Arthur, by the way, if you don't know, he's our little white cat.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was like my little equivalent of a tiger or a lion.
Yeah. Well, he came when we were watching at the back end of the film. He came and sat with us because he normally ventures down when it's like, it's feeding time, Mum and Dad. So come on.
And bedtime routine.
Yeah. So he came up and like nuzzled into us, which is again a rarity for him because he's kind of on his terms.
Yeah.
Like cats do, I suppose.
And then I was trying to do the pen thing of like kind of point.
Yeah.
But it does. Richard, what was his name?
Richard Parker. Yeah.
Peter Parker came into my head.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Initially, with it as well, but it kind of reminds me of a baby cat, really, because they're the same species, aren't they? He's just more vicious.
Yeah.
Basically.
But from the get-go, it was almost it kind of felt like a guessing game in the opening credits of, is that animal CGI or not? Because there was some that looked really like, obviously, like, yeah, that movement looks weird and stuff. And then some of them thinking, like, is that CGI? It looks very realistic.
I feel like some of the zebras at the beginning, where he's like has the zoo and he's kind of twitching like he's got like a bug on him.
Yeah.
I feel like that was real compared to the zebra later on in the boat.
Yes.
So I feel like some shots were genuine. And like that monkey that we were like, oh, that's definitely, we've seen that monkey in like
a zoo or
whatever. And to be fair, then the ape we had on the boat.
Yeah, that's obviously.
It made me think that some of the
CGI.
opening scenes could have been real.
Yeah.
And some of it maybe not. I think there might have been a mixed bag
bag, but I don't know why that was.
I think it's more easy to do, isn't it? Whereas you can get certain animals that are just out because it was just showing them out in the wilderness kind of thing.
Sort of.
So it's more realistic to be able to do that, whereas getting a monkey to do certain things it needs a training over a lifetime.
I suppose. But
where CGI, you can just do it, can't you?
Yeah, I know that is the case, but you know, CGI that looks obviously like the movements too flowy or things like that. The movements don't look realistic. Then it's kind of like
like
that doesn't.
The giraffe that blatantly looked not real.
Yeah.
So it was so strange. Like you could tell, like the bear looked real until it moved and walked and stood up, and then it was like, now it looks a bit out of proportion for what it should
No, I think that one was probably, but
it's just a really thin bear.
Yeah, but I think it's predominantly probably more CGI reliant than anything. But
the opening part, it's like quite intriguing how it started, because I knew obviously from The Life of Pi that this guy was
telling a story.
No, shipwrecked. All I knew was he was shipwrecked on a boat with a tiger.
That's all I knew. I didn't know whether it was going to be like the entire story was just from as he was as a story, not like somebody regaling a tale type of thing.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And so I didn't know how he was going to get shipwrecked, or if it was just like literally we're going to be opening with him shipwrecked, or just see this boat crash and then. Yeah,
I didn't think that was going to happen with that. He's just on a boat and then that's the entire 2 hours. It'd be like right, okay, how did this happen type of thing, but I didn't know it was going to, from the beginning, like sort of cutting back into between obviously his early years as a young boy and then
I quite liked that it added value to it. So it kind of, because I was initially looking at him thinking, well, you don't look like the same boy on the front cover. You've aged if it is you. And I was like, okay. And I think it worked because you already knew he survived it, but it's still, you wanted to know how.
Well, that's the point of storytelling, isn't it? Because you want to know, like, say, from your grandparents and stuff, or your mum and dad or whatever, and like something that an event that happened in their life, and you want to know about it, kind of thing. That's how stories are passed on.
That's true. And I do think it's really intriguing. Like, if I had an uncle or a dad that had a story like that, that would be absolutely fascinating. And it's just the way it kind of has this magical essence about it. So I really
Yeah.
enjoy the fact that nature is quite heavily reliant on this film, and the way that they do certain shots, like even the zoo shot of all the creatures, it does feel like this kind of magical place where
Yeah.
it's obviously like there's loads of birds and it's calming, and you can see the groundness to nature. So I know that they were saying it's more faith than religion, but in my head it's more being grounded to like earth, I guess, is the way that I saw it, and more connected with nature and animals.
Sure, yeah. Like, because of the fact that at the beginning of the film, there's a lot of talk about like different beliefs in religion,
Yeah.
like what God you should follow, and
Must be
all
so
that.
confusing. Like I know when I was growing up, I had one which was like Christianity that was kind of definitely prominent. And even then, as a little child, trying to understand that religion, not to have then two other ones in the mix, be a bit like quite daunting.
And as his father says, as part of that, in the discussion about like, you can't follow three gods because it's like being as blind as people who don't know about it or whatever. And he says like religion is darkness, which I kind of agree that is a thing.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
It's a fine line of that. Is
it can go one or two ways. I feel like it's like money. I feel like money is the root of all evil. Like you can have loads of money and be so selfish, or you can have loads of money and be really generous. And I think that's certain scenarios where religion can be very dark, and they think it's a certain way that you should be because God says so. And that's when you get these extremists.
Yeah, and now these wars start and all this kind of stuff, and this is why this is still an ongoing struggle with people these days.
It's even like the Christianity, like, not meaning it in a bad way, that's like one of the mildest faiths, probably, like, in a sense, and it's kind of one of those that is a little bit not as strong as it used to be. But even then, certain beliefs that they've got, like, against people being gay, that causes controversy, especially within the age that we're in now, where that should be acceptable. And it's like one of those religions that is written in there that shouldn't be. So it's, I don't know if we can update the Bible.
Be a bit of a daunting task, I think.
And make it more. I think that's certain things where it's like why I kind of praise Pi, because he takes certain parts of each religion from it.
Yeah, he sees something in all aspects, and he's kind of learning from himself that way.
Rare, because normally somebody would just follow one thing because they wouldn't believe in the other gods, whereas he seems to believe in all gods. Maybe these gods are all one god, but it's everybody's interpretation of what God is, if that makes sense. But there's probably just one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky subject to grasp on as to what's
think about it all the way around the world. It's like Chinese whisper is religion, not meaning that in a horrible way, and I'm really sorry if I offend anyone, but who actually wrote it? Or is it hearsay of somebody else, and then it gets passed down, and then it is like Chinese whispers by the end, and it's completely different to what it actually says in the beginning.
Well, there's also other things of like in terms of like faith and religion, of the fact that like for his dad, his Western medicine helped him out.
Yeah.
Which again is like a thing of like, oh well, yeah, you can have your belief on like, oh, God will heal me or whatever, but science is more of a cure that you can sort of see and you know it works. I know you should always say seeing is not believing, that is one of the things. However, for example, with the whole coronavirus thing, not meaning this in a bad way, who helped us kind of get us through it? It was either ourselves being faithful and hopeful that we could get to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or it was medicine, that all your doctors in NHS looking after these people that were unwell. In the end, that's the way you have to see it. And I kind of agree. Science is important and it is medical research. But then somebody on the other foot could go, well, actually, God created those people so that they could do that for you. Yeah, that's true. So there's those things of like rational thinking in these situations, and I don't know if there's that in terms of like what Pi is saying about in his story. You know, like, is it too fantastical in what he's telling? I kind of feel sorry for Pi initially, because he is in this world of a little bit of a delusional. He sees the world as
a magical place. When you're little, it's lovely to think of how wonderful the world is. Like, and his dad's really trying to bring him into the real world too quickly, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, he's not like of a really young age when he's shown about the whole incident with the tiger that they have, because Pie's like trying to befriend him like like he would a pet, like, oh, come on, here's some meat. And
but to be fair, that would have helped him out in the long run if his dad had
yeah, I guess,
if they could have been friends at the beginning. Because that's what I thought this was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit like a Jungle Book or something like that, where they were going to be BFFs on this boat, basically. Yeah. It was a little bit more obscure than what I thought. But to be fair, if his dad had let him tame the tiger earlier on, then his life would have been easier when he was shipwrecked.
There's some thought in that, but like his dad says, which I kind of agree on, you think you can be like control pets, and that you think that animals think like you do. We sometimes we forget that. We just assume that, like our dog George or whatever is like, why did you poo on the carpet or or sort of things like that, or be sick. Yeah. They're like, well, don't you understand how annoying this is? And it's like, well, they don't know what they're doing, do they? They're just doing it as part of their routine. Like, I'm got a hairball, I'm just gonna stick it up now.
Yeah, they're not thinking about, that's a nice carpet that you've just bought.
Yeah, all those kind of things.
Also, I do agree with Pie. They have souls. They are their own person. Or it's not just an animal.
No,
it has a heart. It has a brain. It has feelings. And it does, even if it's not the way we think, it does think.
Yeah. But it's not like in what they try to do in that awful remake of The Lion King. And there's a difference between that in the original 2D animation stuff, where obviously you got the cartoon eyes, the characters, and make them show expressions, because cats do not have the ability to really do a smiley face and things and show emotion like they do in that film. So it's not so that this happens in this film either, because the tiger's not just going like, ooh, sad puppy eye face or whatever, or Puss in Boots or something.
No, it's not.
So it's
but they can communicate, so also on their own right. Like, I don't know if this is even true, but I feel like birds, obviously they call one another, they are able to communicate. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not talking in our equivalent. And I do think, really, to be fair, Pie is probably more intelligent than his dad. His dad just doesn't realise it yet. Sure. And I think that's the problem. He sees life as a bit of an adventure. Should we explain why Pie is called Pie?
Oh, you can briefly, yeah. You've got it written down.
So, weirdly, his dad liked going all the way around the world, travelling, and would always have to go in the swimming pools. And he was in France.
Yep.
And went to a swimming pool called Piscine.
Yeah. Piscine Monita, I think.
And basically everyone at his school kept on calling him Pissing, basically, because obviously there's a language
barrier,
yeah. So I think when he was going up to his next class, he basically introduced himself as Pie. He did the whole Pie calculation and was trying to avoid being called Pissing the entire term, basically. Hence the PI at the beginning of Pissing is now Pie.
Yeah.
Bless him. So he's really determined to kind of shift that. So sadly, he kind of grows up and he gets to a point of where life becomes mundane and boring, and that his dad's kind of accomplished sucking the life out of him a little bit, and normality's kicked in. He's bored. He doesn't seem to see the things that used to fascinate him, and he's just kind of going to school, coming home. He's been able to pick up music, and that's pretty much it. And till he finds this girl that he likes, which is really short-lived. Yeah.
I did think, was that going to come back into play later on in the film, but it doesn't really. Which I guess that's understandable. It's not like as fantastical as this film is in with like visuals and the storytelling. So there's not like at the end it's like, oh, then I found her years later, and like a semi-unrealistic way of going about things.
Don't get me wrong, he's married, he's settled down, he's got children in the end, but it's not the one that he finds as his teen sweetheart, which, not being funny, but that is very rare that happens and lasts anyways.
Yeah.
Like, the people that I used to date as a teen, now thinking of dating them as a 30-year-old woman soon, I can't imagine that, to be fair. Because we all change and grow up.
Yeah. Well, coming up to the storm part on the boat.
Speaking of which, the weather is doing the same here.
So if you do hear some rain in the background, then that's what that is.
I would just add in sound effects. That's what it is. Typical British weather now.
Yeah. I know you haven't seen the film Titanic, but that initial shot when it's kind of like the sunset on the sea and everything, and he's kind of looking out at the thing, because they're having to leave where they're living in India and go to Canada for reasons. They've just got to just up and leave, basically. I
think India was becoming a bit unsafe. I think so. They're thinking family wise, it's safer to go to Canada and sell the animals and upship the zoo, which Pi was devastated about.
Yeah.
Which I think, to be fair, if I was living on a zoo as a child, I'd be absolutely mortified if somebody was going to take that away from me.
Yeah, I guess.
And then just take me to Canada with no animals. I'd be like, well, this is crap.
Yeah. So this is almost kind of like the first iteration of an arc, basically, because they've got animals in the cargo bay.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's to the point of it just kind of looked like it was what Celine Dion song might have started playing.
Yeah.
Don't really know why Pi goes out obviously in the middle of the night when this thunderstorm's like in full effect and everything.
I would not do that, to be fair.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's a good job he did, because it actually saved his life. Because the boat was getting shipwrecked basically at that point and getting to a point of where it's
under the waves. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he'd have done that and took his family out with him, he might have still had at least one member alive. Really, if they'd have gone with him. Think about it that way. I probably wouldn't want to go and look, because I think I'd get stranded or taken off ship. Certain times it looked like he was going to fall off with the waves
slipping
crashing.
and sliding all over the place even before.
Yeah.
All that. So yeah.
But to be the only one that survives that must put your life into perspective.
Definitely.
And think, wow, okay, that's a miracle in itself. Nobody else survived, and how many people were on that ship?
Yeah, well, I think there was only really the one lifeboat to say, like, there's a zebra that's going to be in this, which, like, and you said, like, it doesn't look that realistic, but it's not going to be, is it? Because, no way you're going to get a real zebra to be on the boat.
Also, he'd hurt his leg at this point as well. He was injured, jumping down onto the
boat.
Yeah, onto the boat. But I do feel like, how did the animals even get out? Like, they were all caged up. So what? Even
water pressure breaking?
Maybe.
Something, I don't know.
But then we get the hyena as well, which he's a pain in the arse, is the hyena, to be fair. We don't know. We see Richard Parker trying to get onto the boat as well at one point, and Pi's like, no, go away, no, you're not getting on. So you kind of see him trying to climb on a raft, and he's got a paddle.
Yes.
And he's like, no, go away. And I was a little bit like, this is a shame, because if they had got closer, if his dad had let him, he might have been encouraging Richard Parker onto the boat. They then later on get the CGI monkey as well.
Yes. That's right.
It floats on bananas. Do bananas float? I don't know.
Yeah, they made a point of that later on in the film, but I guess they don't.
So, I don't know. Sometimes it made you wonder what was real and what wasn't real.
Yeah.
Within this story.
Not that I've ever really tried to see if a banana floats, but so, I don't know.
So, the monkey is obviously one of his close...
I think the correct term is primate.
Primate?
Yeah.
Not monkey.
Monkeys are more like
little
small... Yeah, primates. Yeah, like chimpanzees and stuff.
Well,
and apes. But yeah. But yeah, this one, it really doesn't look like it was real. And I think a much better example, and I can't remember when it came out, but as the films went on, the latest iteration of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, those are really good examples of good, like, CGI, I think. And they look a lot more realistic. But, it's the budget was spent on a lot more other stuff in this film. And obviously for such a short-lived character, along with the zebra as well. I suppose it took him so long for him to get eaten, to be honest.
Well,
The
it was
hyena.
quite upsetting, wasn't it, with the zebra? Because the hyena went after... I didn't think the hyena would go after the zebra, but maybe he was really hungry.
Oh, yeah, they are more of a scavenger animal, so...
But also, I think he knew it was vulnerable. I think if it was, obviously, if the zebra
gonna fight
was
back, yeah. They
able
wouldn't
to...
bother. That's what I mean, like, they just go after easy pickings, really.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
And then sadly went after the ape as well.
Yeah.
But
Not in a violent way, as such. It wasn't like a bloodbath.
You knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Pye didn't know Richard Parker was on the boat at this point.
Which... I don't know, like, when that occurred.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, the tiger was just hiding under the boat
Because he
this
didn't get
entire
on it,
time.
I thought. So, because you just thought... This sounds really bad. You just thought you would have noticed a tiger get on your boat.
Yeah.
Also, he struggled to get on the boat from the water.
Mm-hmm.
Every other scene that we see after the fact. So how he got on, I don't actually know.
Secret hatch underneath.
Yeah.
I don't know.
To be fair. But obviously, Richard Parker eats the hyena.
Yep.
And he deserves it at this point. It seems... Pye seems quite happy with it, and then he realises...
You got a much bigger threat going on here,
Yeah.
so...
And then just the relationship with Richard and Pye as this goes along is quite comical, really. Like, Pye still wants to look after Richard, even though he's a tiger. He's taken up the whole entire boat.
Yeah, he has to make this a makeshift second raft just to hang on to the side and just keep all the supplies.
Part of it's not even comfortable. Like, at one point I was thinking I'd really need some back support now.
Yeah.
Like, something to lean on.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just sat in the middle.
Yeah.
On this thing, and it's like, well, he's more vulnerable. There's sharks that could just literally get him.
Yeah.
And yet there's this tiger that's just
commandeering the ship. Yeah.
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 So it's quite funny, and the way that the relationship grows from there is a bit comical as well.
Somewhat, but not like in a silly way, like incidental music or anything like that,
No.
where they're like looking at each other and he's going. Like
I kind of wish
confused
though that they got closer together as a connection.
Because as fantastical as this whole situation is, it's not portraying it as again, some shots it does look kind of realistic, sometimes it doesn't, but it's never in a ridiculously silly way that's coming across like that. Oh, that wouldn't really happen. It's just some of the movements might look a bit odd, but I can believe that to a degree that a tiger would be like, oh, kind of stranded on this boat. This is all I've got to work with.
It would go stir crazy because it's like sometimes you see them in the zoos and they pace
something down like a caged lion. Or, so the
and that's kind of what he's doing on the parameter of the boat.
Yeah,
and that's even worse because it's not even as much space as you would get in like a zoo.
No, and he's not getting fed daily.
No,
Properly anyway.
But Pye's a vegetarian, and in the end, he's really not.
Which is kind of tricky, you know. He's having to purposely kill like fish and stuff just to feed his pet in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so that he can survive as well.
Yeah. Because he could, like, saying about like keeping his wits about him, you know, like a reason to be around, to stay alive, you know, to look after another, again, defenseless animal in this situation of like, you know, the vast oceans that with no land in sight.
Well,
whatsoever.
yeah, it's not really where he should live, is it?
No. But I was thinking at some points, again, this is probably to some degree true, of like the blurred line between what's real and what's a dream, because there's especially the light in some scenes as well, like it was almost ethereal and like, you know, like you're just in empty space. You know, the sky meets the sea and it's all the same, almost like there's no line in between and everything. It's just all that vibrant at times, especially when it's completely calm.
And also when he's on the boat, he's looked a lot. One scene where he's trying to tackle Richard Parker, he looked like he was a different person, so to speak. So he didn't look like he'd got the chapped lips. His eyes weren't looking tired. He looked more groomed, and he had his pants tied like up and had a hat on, or like
like a turban type thing. Yeah.
And you looked at him and you were like, he looks okay now. How come? So maybe in his head that's what he was thinking he looked like, but actually he was this skinny, lip-chapped man.
Wasting away, yeah.
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 But there is one scene which does make me laugh, and it does have a bit of a comical aspect, where Pi is trying to get back onto the boat. He's obviously had his raft and he's created, put all the food supplies on there and such.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh no, actually, sorry. He wants to get some of the food supply off the boat. So he gets on and he's kind of, somehow Richard Parker gets in the water. Oh no, wait, no, sorry, So basically Pi wants to get back onto the boat and kind of claim his territory. So he actually gets on the boat.
Yeah.
He screams at Richard Parker.
Yeah.
And then he pees on where the food supply is.
Yeah.
To say this is mine.
Yeah.
And then you get Richard Parker coming back to him, literally, you know, how cats can spray their territory. Well, Pi just gets that all over his face.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to be appearing in the film, to be honest.
It was so funny, but it was done in such a way where you knew that is nature. It shouldn't be kind of comical, but it was. But that is the norm, like what they would do. Yeah, they would. They'd be marking the territory. Yeah. Dogs do it as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
And it was just comical. Luckily, he got to a point where he was able to get on and get all his supplies, and Richard had ended up in the water. And he looked like he was near enough drowning at one point. He was struggling. And I didn't know if Pi was going to leave him, like, to die, really, at one point. You were like... And he's like, wait, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And then they makes his raft even bigger and puts all the food supply on.
Yeah, and it makes this little makeshift, like, stepping ladder for Richard Parker to grip onto and, like, walk up, essentially, so he got the grip to move up on.
Yeah, because you don't want to be letting Richard Parker onto the boat while you're still on the boat.
No.
Do you really? And then he meet you.
Yeah.
Because there's that risk. Mm-hmm. So this is where he's kind of like, yeah, I'm cozy on my raft. Richard's taking up the entire boat. Mm-hmm. And also Richard had shelter in like the sun.
Yeah.
So Pi makes his own shelter. But the only issue is he kind of takes all the food onto the raft. Mm-hmm. And then you do get this magical night scene, don't you? Mm-hmm. Wait, I don't know if this looks real or not, or if it's more like a vivid dream.
Yeah, it does seem like that, really, because, I mean, I've, you know, like, in terms of being out that far in the ocean, whether that would really be, have like a night lit scene with jellyfish all, like, glowing and stuff.
It sounds beautiful.
It does look pretty, but whether that's
realistic,
something that they would be that close to the top of the water, where I think it would be more like at the bottom, in the deeper depths of the ocean. But I don't know. But then this whale comes out, and then that's also like almost like glowing as well in a sense. So it's a bit. I've seen that on posters before, but that's meant to be like a wow magical moment. But then it's kind of like a kind of scuppers him over, because then the crashing of the water then overturns all the raft, the boat, a little bit, and then all half the supplies as well. So it's like, oh, that's nature for you.
True, and you shouldn't kind of put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah.
Another instance where it's somewhat sort of comical in a sense, but it happens, and I can't believe you didn't know there was such a thing as flying fish.
Not like that. They looked like they had wings.
Yeah, that's why they call flying fish. They just skim across the water.
Though, that are doing it?
Yeah, they kind of just flapping just so they can glide a short distance above the water, not like fly.
They look like they were flying in this.
That's why they could think. But that was the most obvious point, particularly as the aspect ratio changed at that point, like when black bars at the top and bottom. When I'm guessing like in IMAX or something, that was the case. And it kind of looked like, yeah, okay, I know this was one of those films that is done in 3D. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there's one particular scene where that was a case where it's like, this is the standout 3D scene of the film.
It made it obvious even watching it at home that was 3D.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I needed it to be 3D, to be fair.
No, I don't think, because like I say, and everything else otherwise doesn't come across that way. But I know the early 2010s and stuff, that's when 3D gimmicks were a thing in terms of when
Everything were
filming,
3D, but it didn't need
trying
to be.
Yes, certain films I've seen in the past, and they're just like, what a waste of money, just for a slight bit of depth. Yeah, except Avatar. That was the only true 3D experience I've seen in the cinema of a good example. But the film
Have you
itself.
seen Avatar?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. Just noticed these blue people in spandex, isn't it?
No,
they're
not
painted.
Spandex. They're just blue people.
Yeah, but how are the actors blue?
CGI.
Oh,
That's
I just
how.
thought they were painted blue, like
No.
a Smurf or something.
No.
Or wearing blue spandex, like tights, leotard thing. Okay.
But as things go on, there's another big storm. He thinks that it's again like God testing them again, or something's like, it's a miracle or something. I don't know.
He's telling God off at this point.
Yeah.
I think he's like getting to a point of, what else do you want off me?
Yeah.
I've given my entire family's died. I've lost them, and what more do you want? It's like literally, I'm shipwrecked with a tiger, and then he thinks that they're both basically gonna die. So it's kind of at this really low point where he did say earlier, you have to get to a low point to have faith.
Yes, that's right. They get past that and onto the again calm moment on the sea. I was thinking, is the tiger going to die?
He did look really fatigued at this point,
and
didn't
like
he?
Really thin, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop bursting into tears or something. It's like, I know it's not real. It doesn't. There's not the connection like you like in a realistic pet way type of thing. But I don't know if that was going to affect me in any way. But
that would have tipped me over if he'd have died.
Kind of looking at you, thinking, is she going to start crying when there's no need to?
I was okay.
Yeah, it turned out all right, really.
And they find then land as well in the end, even though
it seems very fantastical.
Yeah, I don't know if it's real or if it's. I don't know. This doesn't seem quite legit.
Yeah. Versus, he says later on, it's like there's no evidence of this land existing and stuff. Like, it's not on any maps or anything like that. But it's an island full of meerkats.
Which Richard Parker is in his element, eating all the meerkats. It's just a good job they breed, isn't it? So
I know, because they hardly flinching at all. These meerkats, like, their mates just died there. Yeah, but it's all right.
I was just thinking, was this like when Compare the Meerkat was like popular, so we haven't a meerkat?
No, I think that was way before all that stuff. But these meerkats don't look realistic at all.
No, they're rubbish. They're like the whatever you said weren't meerkats.
Oh, prairie dogs.
Yeah, literally looked the same to me. The same crap animation that didn't look real.
There's something about the island as well, saying it's like in daytime it was kind of normal, like viney and stuff, but then there was like, when it became nighttime, it became carnivorous. Like these water pools were kind of like filled with acid and dissolving. Like the island was just one big pitcher plant or something. That
you mean like an orgy too?
Yeah, or a Venus flytrap.
Well, Richard even ran back to the boat, didn't he? To be fair,
animals do have instinct of that, I suppose. So.
And Pi went up the tree.
He was already up there, but and all the meerkats were like trying to get to him as if
I'd been snuggling the meerkats. Me, I wouldn't have been pushing them away. I'd be like, "Come on, let's have a cuddle."
Make a blanket out of them.
Love a good cuddle, yeah. Be well made up.
But this kind of inspires him to, like, I can't stay here forever, because if it was safe all the time, then I'd probably just be like living the rest of my life out here. But it's like, I've got to move on, try and get hope. But eventually they do actually find proper land on the Mexican shoreline.
This bit's a bit bittersweet for me. And I do think Richard Parker goes down in my books a bit. Because Pi...
Well, I mean...
I don't know. I feel like...
I know you're trying to
I do think animals have some form of remorse. And there was, like, on the news, apparently, dolphins rescued, a human from a shark attack. That there are certain animals that
but dolphins do have quite high intelligence.
And I feel like after everything they've been through, at least if Richard could have brought him onto the land a little bit more, even if he just dragged him up the shore a little bit, I'd have really liked that. Instead of just being like, right, thanks, mate.
Well, he doesn't even do that, does he? He kind of looks at the
just walks
jungle
off.
forest and then just stares at it for a while, and then just ventures into it, and not even. Like Pie wanted him to like look back as if like, well, yeah, thanks for all you've done, mate. And then, but I don't think I get what you're saying.
Certain animals
might do that, but I think that kind of in a realistic way works. You can't. He was trying so hard to like have a strong bond with this wild animal, and
I
it's
think
just
he can though. I do really believe.
I think it's more of a case when, say, if he had him from a cub. Something and you kind of raise it up in that way,
or if he was injured,
or something like that.
But that's why I kind of thought with this, where at one point Richard Parker was near enough dying, and if it wasn't for Pie, he would have died.
Yeah, I know.
And Pie was feeding him and giving him water.
Yeah.
Then you'd have thought at least he could have tried to get Pie onto the land, and then he could bugger off. But he just goes, and even Pie says that was the saddest moment when he left him. And
you spent such a long time with that as your only companion.
Yeah, and then he just like goes in like 10 seconds.
Yeah. It's not quite the same as the Wilson from Castaway, is it?
No.
Wilson didn't do anything other than just being like there for him to shouting board, really.
I think this is more like Pie was so dependent on Richard Parker, but Richard Parker needed Pie as well. They both needed one another. Pie did a lot more though, and the connection there for Pie was a thing.
We can do more because he's human. He's got more capabilities and knows.
But like at one point, he's like, we're both dying, and he's got Richard Parker on his knee, and he's stroking him like you would do a pet. Yeah. So it's not like they never kind of touched one another or anything like that. So you could have. Yeah. Anyways, coulda, woulda, coulda.
And then the final bit is more talking about. When he's talking to the investigators about the whole situation, like why the boat sank, and it's like, I don't know why this happened, it just did, type of thing. And
I don't know if he doesn't remember the storm, because that's why it sank, wasn't it? Because there was a storm. But unless it should have been able to sustain that storm. I
mean, there's boats on storms all the time, but they don't all necessarily all sink.
But then if you crash into something...
But it wasn't like an iceberg or anything like that.
But so you don't know what's underneath the water, do you? Like somebody else could have got shipwrecked and then...
Yeah. So he goes on about, like, well, they need a story that I think, like, the people, the general public can understand.
Yeah.
So he's saying it like, like obviously planned with his... The parallel with his, like, the orangutan is like his... mother and the cook and everything. So
I think it's Pie is the tiger, the orangutan's his mother, the cook is the hyena, and then there's this one that is the zebra.
Zebra American
zebra. I don't know who he was, but it wasn't that. Somebody else off the. Oh, he was that one that said about having your rice and your gravy on the side. Somebody, not really.
Yeah. So. Saying like that's probably what happened in actual fact.
You think that's what real life is?
That's what the real story is, but people would want much rather to hear a fantastical story about a tiger on a boat and all this other weird, wonderful stuff that happened in his journey, as opposed to boring facts of...
I don't know, I feel like, actually, to be fair, the tiger did happen, but people couldn't comprehend it. So we had to make up a realistic story. I'd like to believe that was true, but you can take it two ways with this, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could. But it's just like when you think of like something like I don't know, when we did the Babadook, for example, and it's like, yes, there's monsters and stuff, but you can apply grief to that as a means of coping. Like, it's easy to say the monster is my deep, darkest fears coming to life type of thing. It's kind of like seeing that parallel with real life and stuff and other things.
And to be fair, does even Pie know the real story at that point as well?
Yeah, because God knows how long he'd been out there for.
So what he made
like
real.
They say, like, what's real, what's not. All these situations, these vivid colours, the sea and the sky and everything that's going on.
Do you think one thing he does say though, and this is when he's kind of referring to Richard leaving him, is what hurts the most is without being able to say goodbye. So that being like one of those not being able to close a chapter. Like, he wasn't able to say goodbye to his parents, and neither Richard Parker. And that is difficult. And I think a lot of people have noticed that as well, especially a couple of last years where you've not been able to have that closure.
Yeah, that's true.
But in overall, he seems to then come out of the light. He obviously has a family. He seems to be more grateful than ever for life, which I always think somebody does in them circumstances. And he's happy for this person to write his story.
Yeah. And that's the film.
That is it. It's very magical.
It is, but it's not. Maybe if it was seen on the bigger screens, and depending how strong the 3D was and stuff, it'd probably be a bit more like, wow, this is an experience type of film. But in terms of score, it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To say it's 2 hours, it doesn't seem to drag.
No.
Everything seems to have a purpose. It's all there.
Mm-hmm. But I think for my number to it, I think I'm going to go 7.
Really? So you think Uncut Gems is higher than Life of Pi?
Yeah, I do. I feel like there's more to enjoy from that. There wasn't like I don't know, like I say, like for expecting something to be like blown away by like the visuals in this, or like have a real deep emotional connection to anything. Not to say there was none at all, but it was just there wasn't a very strong connection of those feelings brought out from watching this.
Okay.
Really. I don't know if it's just because I've waited so long to see it, or
maybe.
Absolutely, but it's not to say I wouldn't never not see it again.
I would see it again, definitely.
And I guess CGI being
just like CGI. We'll leave it there.
Yeah. I don't want to throw shade on it too much because obviously that's just how it is, and like it's not like it looked really terrible. But
no, didn't.
It is what it is for the time. Yeah, I've seen worse. Oh, definitely, yeah. For unnecessary scenes where this is
like
kind of integral. Yeah.
Confusing meerkats or whatever they're called.
Prairie dogs. Okay, so what's yours? Is yours going to be higher or lower?
Higher.
Okay.
So definitely, I know I marked Uncut Gems at around 7 last time. I have to mark this higher. I have to. So I'm going to say an 8. I really enjoyed Pi as a character. I feel like he reminded me a little bit of me, where I'm like the positivity of things and how I see things a little bit different and always kind of see the good.
Yep.
And I quite liked that somebody else out there does that. No, so not so cynical towards life. And even though he's thrown a hell of a burden of trying to get being shipwrecked and such, he still comes out of it, and I think it's still such a positive story. It makes you feel quite uplifted.
Yeah, I get that.
At the end of his outcome, because it could have gone dramatically worse. I think CGI is some points, like you're saying, we're like, which is real, which isn't. But the opening scene of it does feel like this kind of tropical island. It's quite magical. It's got all the colours. It works really well. I do think there's certain points where it actually made me laugh, which I didn't think would happen.
Like the pissing.
Like the pissing. Not the pissing, his name, but the pissing as in marking the territory. Yeah. Which was hilarious. It was only there for a little bit, but it worked really well.
What, was there anything else?
More of the relationship between him and the tiger, so like telling him off.
Yeah.
Like, who would normally scream at a tiger? Like, you'd be screaming running away, you wouldn't be screaming at it.
You normally scream at to ward off animals, like some things that might be in your garden or
that you don't want.
Or just to scare a dog that maybe running at you or something.
Yeah. But you wouldn't, a tiger, you'd run away. So there's certain things in that element that...
Yeah. I think, though, in, like tribal
people,
you
would.
Then they would to defend their village or
But
whatever.
you'd have more than one person.
Yeah, to do that. You'd have spears and stuff to ward them off. Yeah, I suppose just a stick.
Just one person. And I just think the way that some certain scenes are really picturesque. It's
yeah.
done really,
Visuals
really
are
well.
strong. Yeah.
And the connection between Richard and Pi, even though it's not as cutesy as I'd have hoped, it's realistic, but it still works. To say literally for half of this movie, he's on a boat with a tiger. And I did think I was going to get bored, but I didn't. And it was 2 hours, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to drag.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the 2 hours, though, thankfully. It was just on the boat.
Yeah, no, they weren't. Yeah, which I was thinking that's what I was thinking it was going to be.
But majority of the film, they were probably like half an hour, and then it was the introduction.
But they still kept on flitting back to the storytellers as well, which I think worked, where if you were just having them shipwrecked for that length of time, it could have been a bit mundane.
Mm-hmm.
So in all, I think I really enjoyed it. I actually had a dream that I was on in a zoo, so it must have done something to me. But I'm really connected with nature, so I really love our garden. And I love seeing the birds and all the nature within it. So I kind of get where Pi is coming from when he's looking at all the animals when he's at the zoo.
Sure.
So definitely better than Uncut Gems, like by far. Like, because you felt good about it at the end. You didn't feel flipping stressed and blood pressure to the roof.
Yeah, there is that.
I slept quite well when we'd watched Life of Pi. I was a little bit stressed out when.
The other one, yeah.
I think we had to put a Bob's Burgers on just to calm me down.
That's normally the case, though, isn't it? It's like, it's scary.
Yeah.
Got to put Bob's Burgers on.
Let's put Bob's Burgers on. We actually hadn't told anyone how well the film was. Obviously, we went and saw that. So, if anybody, we don't get sponsored by Bob's Burgers or anything like that, but go see it.
Or Fox, no.
Whoever it is. But go see Bob's Burgers. We highly recommend it. I thought it was amazing.
If you're a fan of the show, then you'll love the movie.
Yeah, you will.
Even if you're a fan of 2D animation, really, and showing support to something it's very rare that 2D animation gets shown on the big screen these days. It's all 3D animation.
Yeah.
And they're, a penny a piece in terms of like what they churn out these days. So, because it's like, I think, I don't know, Simpsons movie was what, 2016, I think, something like that. And that was, to my knowledge, other than like anime ones that they get on the big screen, there's not much other from the Western side of things.
And I think it's amazing. It was such a good story.
So it's very wholesome.
Yeah.
Like the show is.
It makes you want to be family orientated. It shows, not showing just the wealth, it's showing people's daily struggles. Mm-hmm. And you can relate to it.
Yeah. It's just easy going, really. Yeah, recommended.
Highly recommended on the back of Life of Pi.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much for listening to this episode. And if you'd like to listen to some other episodes, you can find us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you might get your podcasts from.
And if you want to follow us on social media, like why wouldn't you? We are mainly on Twitter, Instagram, and we're trying to be oldie fuddy-duddies on TikTok. I don't have a clue how TikTok works. Showing my age. We are under the handle SP_filmviewers.
Yep, and if you'd like to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else that does us star ratings, you can do so. That'd be very much appreciated. Get us out there to a wider audience as well. We also do have a Buy Me a Coffee page as well if you want to make a small donation.
Definitely do.
Well, thank you very much for listening once again, and we will speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.